Neha, you can start now.
Okay, sure. Or shall we wait 2, 3 more minutes? I see there are very few participants.
Okay, we will wait for some.
Yeah, just wait for 2, 3 more minutes, then we'll start.
The recording has stopped.
And Amar, can you check? People are responding in the chat that content is not available, accessible.
Ma'am, it's already uploaded on 11.
Yeah, so maybe meanwhile you can just show them one more time where it is, because I see in chat people asking about that content is not accessible.
Okay. Hello. So hope my screen is visible. So once you visit on LMS, you need to go at the Python for Data Science EDL program. Curriculum and Meet are there. So in the curriculum, session material and recording tab is there. Go on the start and day-wise video and material is there. This is the day one video and introduction and day one material. If you want to find for a day two, go on day two and just there are material. Just wait. There are yesterday's material. So you can find there. And about the day three, we will upload by after the session. And if you want to submit the attendance, then go on attendance. You will find the attendance here. And that's it. You will access the material from here. You are not able to download, but you are able to see the material. Thank you. If you have any queries, then post the message.
Okay, I hope now it is clear to you guys how you can access the material, right? Um, with that, let's get started. So let me know if my screen is visible. Okay,
Yes, ma'am, your
cool.
screen.
Yeah, so in last 2 days what we learned is, right, so we are gonna just do a quick recap, as well as we are going to do it in Jupyter Notebook. So I hope by now you all guys all are able to you know install Anaconda Navigator and Python both, and you are able to launch Jupyter Notebook at your own. If you are able to do that, uh, I mean, you are all set to get started. Okay, so what we will be doing today is, first we will be trying to practice whatever syntax or different kind of data types we learned in 2 days, and then we will be switching over to more advanced syntax in Python. Okay. So as we said, right, introduction to data type, right? So one thing we already told, that wherever there is a hash sign, it is used for commenting. So as you can see here, so in this line, if I run, so it will run before this hash sign. But as soon as I have put this hash sign, it will not read after that. Okay. So what does it say? To run a cell, press Shift Enter. So there are two ways to run the cell. So I will repeat again how to launch this notebook. Okay, I'll just quickly tell you guys so that you understand. Okay, what you have to do is go to your start button. You can see this Anaconda prompt. Just click on this Anaconda prompt, right? And just wait till this thing appear. Then you simply type Jupyter Notebook, and it is already there in the presentation also. This is step. As soon as you launch Jupyter Notebook, you press enter, and you will see certain line of code coming up, and by default you will be directed to the Jupyter session in your browser. Clear? So यहाँ पर you can see that you are already there in your local system. Then you can simply, whichever folder you want, you can go and open the previous one. So these files, whatever I'm sharing, you can go and click on that and open those notebook. Or let's say if you want to create your own, you can do that by doing this new and just click on Python. Okay, this is just a quick recap how we can access it. So I'm just closing it as of now. Okay, cool. So let's get started. So now once you have launched it, let's say you type something, right? Now, how do I run this cell? There are two ways again. Either I can go, you can see here, right? It says run. So if I can press this, it has run. So you can see that earlier there was no number over here, but now there is one. So you can see that it has run now. So, or other ways you can do shift enter. So now my cursor is here. So I pressed shift enter with my keyboard and it is run. Now you can see earlier there were 4. Now it is 2. Because it might happen that I might have run previously at 4th step, but now I have run at the 2nd step. Similarly, now this is free 5, right? But now if I press this, it is 3 now. So it is in order. Okay. And the advantage why we are using Jupyter Notebook, you can see here that whatever input you gave, you can see the output over here. And if you will, I will share this file as it is with you. So the best part is when you will load this file, you will be able to see all these outputs also. So what happened is, let's say it's a very big code, right? And somebody you want to, it is very much readable and very easy to understand, because you can put examples also, you can put text also. So like these are the codes. So what you can do is, if you want to insert something, right, you can see this plus symbol. So okay, let me just quickly walk you through all these symbols, right? So this is of course for save, right? So save button hai. Then if you just click on this insert cell, so there will be a new cell will be inserted if you click on plus. If you do this cut, it will be cut. So you have to make sure that your cursor is on this, whatever you want to cut. So for example, my cursor is here. You can see this green box highlighted, which means that my cursor is over here. I can cut this. Okay, simply if I want to add, I will add and I will just put X and I will run this. Now you see it has changed. Now it is 4th step. Okay. Similarly, this is for again copy selected cell. So all these are very much similar like any other Windows mein jo bhi operations hote hain, right? This is for up and down. So basically, let's say if you want to move this cell up, you can do that. So now you see print has gone up. Similarly, if you want to move it down, you can just move it down. And then this is for running. So you can run this. This is for stopping. So let's say if you have you are running something, now it got hung, or by mistake it is doing some random calculation and you want to stop it immediately. So you can click on this. So everything will be stopped and your memory will be clear also. Okay. Again, this is the same thing. This is restarting. So sorry, here it will stop, but your memory will not be cleared. But this button, it will clear your memory also. So you see restart the kernel. So it will restart your kernel and your memory will be clean. Okay. Then you have this running all the cells. So what it will do is it will restart and it will run all the cells. So jitne bhi cell hai isme, like you can see, right? These many cells, it will run at its own automatically. So if you want to run full script at the one go, you can do that. Then there is this, these are the codes, right? But as I said, right, or if you see, this is not code, this is text. So this is also another advantage with Jupyter, that you can write all these text, you can insert images. How you can do is, if you see, this is also cell, but all you have to do is, earlier if you want to print something, right, if it is code, then you select code. So all these lines are code which you want to execute. But this line where you want to write text, so it's not code, you have to select Markdown. Markdown is simply means you want to insert some text or something for you, which is for readable purpose, like you want to create heading. So if you just give hash symbol, right, so your heading will be big. So let's say if you see if you put hash, which means one hash, then it is bigger. Then if you put two hash, which means that it is second heading, so it is slightly smaller. Like that, you can give indentation also. I hope it is clear. Okay, then as you can see here, right, it has run till here x equal to 10. After that, it has ignored. Okay, so this is integer. So this one thing we saw, this is integer, right? Then type also you can check. It is int. Okay, then you can print it, right? Then you have strings. So string is a collection of characters, right? It can be defined in quotes. Okay, so string, so likewise you can define string equal to within the quotes, it's ABC Sarosa or whatever you give, right? It will be within the quotes, so that's a string, right? Then you can see the type also of this string. It is str. Length of the string, you can see it will just count the number of characters it has, right? So string is nothing but list of characters, right? So it will just count the number of characters in it, and that will be length. Okay. Um, then you have a new, then you can define a variable which can be float as well. So this is different than integer, right? Integer is a whole number, then you have decimals number, which are floats. Okay, so you can see the type of this is float. Then you can define list also, right? And then we saw we can do the indexing, right? Indexing we can do in a string as a list also, because a string is also a list of characters. So if I do indexing here, so string 0 will be a, because in Python it starts with 0, index start with 0, so always remember that. So 0 is a, then 1 is b, likewise you can see. And let's say this is just 3, right? 0 1 2. So if I give anything after 2, let's say 3 4 5, it will give me error. As you can see, in string index out of range. Okay, just give me 1 second, just 1 second. Yeah, sorry about it. Yeah, so let's resume. Yeah, so as you can see, right, string, it is giving index out of range. Okay, then you have you can access, like, giving negative sign. So basically it will be in a reverse order. Okay, so likewise you can get when you are giving the in the reverse order, right? So okay, sorry, I did not run string. Just a second. Yeah. Mhm. So you can see you got b value, right? From the last, it is for last value. If we do -1, then it is c, otherwise it is b, right? And then 3, then it is a. So from the last it counts. Then last, it does not start with 0. So last it starts with -1 2 3, like that. Okay, similarly here, if this is the string, you can see all these things we have already seen, right? So it is good. So you can give the indexing also. So then you can do the slicing also. So slicing is nothing but extraction of substring. So let's say you have very big string like this, and you just want to sub part of it. So sub part of it, you can get it like that. So JKDS. So likewise, you can do the slicing also. So it is substring. Similarly, you can do 3's to -1 as well. So that will be telling you starting from last to to the 3. So what is 3? 0 1 2 3. So till this ends. So the entire this thing will come. So entire this thing is coming, right? So you likewise you can add the strings, right? Then you can capitalize also. You can do the uppercase and lowercase also. So let's say if you are doing this, right? So basically everything will be converted into a uppercase. Sorry, there was a string one defined. Let me do this. As you saw, right, earlier it was small caps, then everything is now uppercase. So likewise you can do upper, lower, capitalize. May only first letter will be capital. You can check the index of with one letter, right? What is the index, like that, all these things you can do. Then coming to list, again, it can store multiple data types, right? It is mutable. And syntax is this. So if you want to define list, just give the square brackets and define elements within that. So you, as you can see, it is a mix of string, number, floats, integer, or even boolean values as well, right? So if I want to print the type of this, as you can see, first is a string, integer, float, string, then again this is boolean. True and false are boolean. Okay, so that's why you can see bool over here. And then you can use pop, append, and all those functions whatever we saw, right? So that was a quick one. Then we learned is, then what else we learned? Yeah, so all these operators also we learned, right? Append, insert, remove, pop, and all. So I mean, all these things will be shared with you. I'm not going them again because all these are pretty simple and I have already explained you. So you can just go through at your free time whenever you have time, so that you can remember all these. Again, I mean, there is no need to memorize all this. It's just that go through it one time, try to run it at your own, so that you know that all these things exist and how to access it. Okay, all these insert, remove command, right? You can in fact type this help dot list remove, it will tell you. You can get the help also in this, that what it does, remove the first occurrence of the value. Okay, all these help also you can get in Python itself, right? Pop command, using delete words, so you can just do a delete also, right? So you can simply do the delete and all those elements will be deleted from your list, or the entire list also will be deleted, right? Then you have extend. So we saw the difference between extend and append. So extend is like it will be placing it as elements. However, append will be just placing it as it is, right? So that difference we saw. Then you can do the counting, index, mutable versus immutable, right? So tuple is round bracket. So anything you define within round bracket, this is tuple and that cannot be mutable. So you will get this error, right? So if you are defining even strings are also immutable, right? So for string also you will get this error. So always remember, string and tuple are immutable and you cannot do the assignment using this method like indexing and all. Then you can sort your list. You can do the reverse order as well. Okay, so all these methods we learned, right? Then what else? Then there were, yeah, statements and all, right? So all these are very basic things which we saw. We imported the math thing. So that's how we import library in Python, right? So there were so many functions in math which we learned, right? Absolute, then comparison, power. So what happens is all those functions are available in math library. All you have to do is just type import. So as you can see, import is a reserved keyword. That's why it is in green. And then you import a math library. So as soon as you click on this, you will be able to run this. So let's say if I run this, right? Before running this, so let's say I run this, it gave me error that math is not defined because it doesn't know what is math. So first I have to run import, then only this will work. So when I ran this, it ran successfully. Now I will run this. Now you see it has run, but now it is giving a is not defined because I have not run the previous ones, right? So if I run this and then run this, it will work. Okay, cool. So there are, like, all this list tuple we have already see, slicing and all, right? So all these are the initial ones. So these are iterables, right? So yeah, so iterables. Okay, so I think for loops, concatenate. Okay, index position, elements, removes, reverse. Okay, so I think all these are also again the similar things. So you can go through this three, four notebooks which we'll be sharing. Right. Again, this is for dictionary, right? So dictionary also we saw how we can define. Yesterday we learned that it has to be in curly braces, and then you define a key, and then you give the value using this colon. Likewise, you can define key and give the value, and then that's how your dictionary is. And then how you can access, so in list you can access as an index. Here you can access as a key, because key are your index. So keys are name, age. So likewise you can run this. So if you do this, you see you are getting value because you are accessing value using keys, right? So similarly, you can update the dictionary also. So let's say now name you have changed to Adam. So if you, and location also you have updated it. So now it has updated. So name has been changed from Shafi to Adam, and location is also updated. So likewise, you can do it. You can even delete one element as well, right? There is something called sets also. So sets are also very, it is very similar to list. It's just that sets have unique values. Set does not have positional ordering. This is the only the two difference between set and list. So set you define as a curly braces, okay, just like dictionary, but curly braces, but it is different than dictionary, because dictionary may you define key and values, right? Here it is very similar to list. It's just that it will all have unique values, and it does not have any positional ordering. Like yahan par you cannot access. So for example, if I run this and if I try to run this, it will give error. That set object is not subscriptable. So if you really want to subscript something or it do the indexing, use list, not set. So set we typically do of a list where we want to get only the unique value. So for example, I can define a list. Sorry, five, five, 5, 7. Okay, and if I do set of A, I get a set. So set is nothing but unique elements. That's all. So now you see, list को इसने set में convert कर दिया, which has only unique elements. Clear? I hope it's clear. So as you can see, right, list है मेरे पास. अब मैंने इसका set करूँगी, so I can get that, right? So likewise, it is iterable. You can see the type of this, right? The type of this is dictionary, and then this is set. So for set, you have to clearly mention if it is a blank one, right? So it is set. Okay, and then it can again, it can take multiple kind of values. Like here you can see type है, integer है, string है, tuple है, and then decimal में है. It can take all of these values. Okay, it is not taking immutable mutable data type list. Okay, yeah. So one difference over here is why it failed over here, because set is not mutable, right? It cannot be changed. So it will take only those elements which cannot be changed. So it is taking only immutable data type. So if you see here, we have given tuple, we have given string, so it can take that. But as soon as you try to give a list, it will fail. It won't take list. So if I so that's why it is saying unhashable type list. If I remove this, it should work. See, it worked now. So it won't take list. Okay. So these are very, minute things. You will see why we are learning this, where it is useful. But let me tell you one thing, it is very much useful when you are actually doing something, right? And it is failing, it is giving you error. That time you will, you will not know what is the problem, where the problem is happening. So that's the reason why we should try to remember these rules. I'm not saying that you will remember all of them, but it's just that, what happened is, let's say if you get similar error somewhere in future, so at least you will recollect, okay, we were told this, that why we are getting this error. So the debugging or solving that thing will be easier comparative to. अगर आपको कुछ भी नहीं पता है, then things will be very much difficult. But now in this case, at least you will remember some part of it, so that if you are reading it again or somebody is talking to you about it, so that you can recollect easily. Okay, fine. So then you have this range function. So this range function, what it does is simply, so this is a for loop. We'll be learning it today in detail. How do we define this control statement? But what this range do is, it is typically, I'm saying that you start with this 1 and end with this 5, and you repeat all the values. Okay, so as soon as I run this loop, you see 1, 2, 3, 4. So always remember, like yesterday also I said, range, whenever you give, it does not take the last value. It will be only with the one value less than that. Because range, if I don't give anything now, let's say if I don't give the start point, I just give the end point, with that it will start with 0. And that is the reason, right? Because it is counting 5 values from 0. So that's why it is taking 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And if I give the start point, then it will start with that point, but it will end at 4 only. Okay, cool, fine. Any doubts so far, like from yesterday's thing or whatever we discussed now? Any doubts in this? No? Okay, perfect. So with that, let's get started to the new topic. So we have already covered all these things. All right. So now we will learn more from the coding perspective. अभी तक हमने क्या किया? We were learning in bits and pieces what these things are, what that thing are. Now we will learn more about coding when we do the coding, right? It is much more than that. Than these just simple data structures and data types, right? So what are these techniques? We will learn that today. Okay. So सबसे पहले है so first thing first comes input techniques, right? How do we pass the input, right? Way to pass user defined input to a program. So you, if you remember in C++, you might have learned these functions, right? Scanf and printf, all these are input and output function. So how do we do it in Python? Okay, so the input string methods returns a line of a user's input as a string. So you can actually use something like this input string. The parameter is used as prompt. The string can be converted by using conversion method in string or float string. Okay, so what does it mean? How we can do? So let's try this out, right? So let's say I have, let me open a new notebook. Okay, so let's say now I will say just like that, right? If I enter, you see it has given me this one box to input a material, right? So now what I can do is I can just press 10. So you see now if I print a, it will give me 10. So that's how you can simply give the input function, right? So that is user defined input. So of course you could have simply given a equal to 10 here also, that also might have worked. It is just that, let's say from the user, if you want to take some input, you can do that. Okay, in fact you can give here enter a number. So it will show you over here enter a number, so you know that you have to enter a number. Right? And then it will be changed. So that's how simple it is to give the input in Python, right? Then let's come to the decision making statements. So what happens is in any of the coding language, right, you might have remembered this or learned this if else all these conditions, right? Decision making items. So what it does is decision making structure allow programmers to test one or more condition or take actions accordingly. So what happens, why we have this if else condition? So let's say if I have to write a code where I have, if a certain condition is met, then I have to perform this, or else I have to perform this. So very classic example is, let's say you have a data set with of student subject and the marks, right? Let's say if you are getting the value that let's say if a student marks in physics is less than 50. If it is less than 50, then you say that it has failed. Maybe physics is very important, right? So this, you say it is failed. If it is greater than 50, then you check in again, go back to the maths marks. Then you go back and check the maths marks if it is greater than 50 or 60, right? Like that. So if it is greater than certain value, then again you do this, else you do this, right? So all these kind of if else conditions are given. So for that matter, you need all these loops and conditions. So we will see that how we can use it, but these are some of the examples which you can think of where we implement these syntax, right? So how to give it? Simply decision making, like if else condition. So we give if variable. So this variable is like a condition, right? So if this condition is happening, then it will you can sorry, that's how it works, right? So for example, I'm sorry. Yeah, so input three values, right? So let's say you have inputted these values 10, 0, and -1, right? Now what will happen is it will check that whether 10 is greater than 0 or not. If it is greater than 0, then it will print true, else it will print false. Okay. So similarly, right, another example could be that design and develop a IT calculation system for a company, right, such that an employee's salary is entered and the income tax is calculated. So again, this is classic example where you can use it, right? So you will have to enter the person's salary, and then accordingly tax will be calculated. Then there are slabs, right? So you will put, if person's salary is between this and this, then this is the percentage. If it is between this and this, then this much is the percentage, right? So likewise you have different slabs. Okay, then you have to put these if else conditions, right? So let's say at runtime you need to enter at least four employees salary in all four income range. Then you can put a loop, that if it is between this and this, or if between this and this, or between this and this. So we will maybe it will be more clear when we see the syntaxes. Okay. So that is about the if else. Then we have certain loops called while loop also. So it may happen that those were the conditional statement, but these are iterative statements. So what do you mean by iteration? Which means that your loop will start at first point and then it will end at some point whenever that condition is met. So very simple example of while loop is, so let's say I started with count equal to 0, right? Then what I have given while, then this condition it will check. So as soon as this condition is met, then only it will go in this. Otherwise, it will stop and it won't go within that. Okay. So what it does is, so it will, and as you can see, what is happening inside is I am printing, this is count, right? And count is then again it is getting added. Okay. So let's try that out, right? Let's try to see, and I mean run this in Python itself and see how it works. So be careful also. So let's say as I was telling, right? So here you, if you see, it will give me some error. Sorry. Okay. So it is giving me error because it is saying invalid syntax. So you can see this arrow and something I can see, because what happened is when you copy paste from some other place, right? So basically it should be a tab. It should not be this kind of symbol. This is some other symbol which I don't know, or which Python does not recognize. So because all these symbols are invisible, right? You cannot really see what is the coding and all. So basically this should not be there. You should give a simple tab. So now you see that symbol is gone. Similarly here, you should give a simple tab. Okay. Then if you run this and you check, okay. So one another thing was, you have to print count is this. So basically again, this is missing, right? This particular symbol is missing. So you have to put it here, because now it has started over here and ended over here. Right. Now you try to see it has run. So what it is doing, it started with count equal to 0. Then when this condition is true, right, because 0 is less than 9, so it will go within the loop. So it will go within the loop, it will print this, count is this, so count is 0. Then what it will do, it will increase the count. So now your count is 1, not 0. So again this loop will go, and this condition will be checked. So again, if 1 is less than 9, and it will go within the loop, it will execute the statements. It will do the same thing till this condition has become false. And when this condition will become false, at 8, right? So when count is equal to 8, it is going inside this loop and it is printing. But as soon as your count become 9, right? So now 9 is less than 9. So this condition is false, right? 9 is equal to 9. 9 is not less than 9, right? So that's why this condition has become false, and these lines will not print and your loop will stop. Clear? So that's why always be careful what you are running this. Make sure, especially in while loop, that you are not getting into infinite loop. What is infinite loop? Let's say somehow I forgot to increase count. So let's say I commented this, which means that it won't be executed. So if I run this, right, what do you guys think? Will it stop? Because what is happening is, I'm always at 0, so you see it will always print 0 0 0 0. See, it is now an infinite loop, so I have to stop it. it will never stop because it is not increasing, right? So I have to stop it from here, interrupt the kernel. So I have stopped it now. Hopefully it has stopped. Yes. So I have interrupted it, but it went into a infinite loop. So always pay attention and be careful whenever you are using while loop. Okay. Clear? Any questions? I cannot use Hindi because when I use Hindi, there are some people who don't understand it. So you have to bear with English. Okay, let's move further. Yeah. So this was about the while loop. Then we have something called for loop as well. So what this for loop does, basically, you give. Uh, so let's try it out with the example only. Then things will be more clear. Okay. Right. So again, I have to fix this. This is simple tab. So what this for loop does is basically you can iterate it in a list or you can give a range like we saw, right? So basically whatever is the list, right, you can iterate in that list, right? So what will it do? So let's say you have some certain variable. So for this variable in this list, right, now this variable can be x also, anything, just make sure that this variable is same whatever you are using here. So what it does is it will go one by one within this list. So when it is running one first time, x is equal to banana. Okay. So then it will do those operations, whatever is there in the loop. Then second time it will go x is equal to apple. Then it will perform the actions. Then again third time it will go when x is equal to mango. It will perform the operation within the loop and then it will stop because I am only iterating over this list only. Okay, so as you can see, if I run this, you saw pehle banana print kiya, first banana, then apple, then mango. If I change the order, it will be changed because now first mango become the first thing over here, right? So likewise, it will change. Now mango comes first, banana comes first, and apple. So that's how you can do the for loop. And this is used, I would say, 80 to 90% of the time in your examples. Okay. So that's how you iterate in Python using for loop or while loop. Okay, so for loop. Before we check out this example, we take up the function range also. So you can iterate in range also, right? So let's say if you don't have to work on list, right? You want to, let's say, run a loop 10 times. So what you can do, you can simply use this. Instead of fruits, you can give a range. We saw that range function, right? Range, and then let's say you give 10. So what it will do, it will just range, it will iterate over this range simply 0, 1 to 9. Okay, so that range function also you can do, right? Basically this range function is nothing but it's a list, right? So if you do this list of this range, you can see all these numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, another way doing it is this also. So here what we did is यहाँ पर directly we were assigning the variable. So here what we were doing is for x in fruits. So x in fruits matlab x was first mango, then banana, then apple. This is one way to do. But let's say sometimes you want to see at which level or which index you have reached. Let's say you have very big list, 100 or 500, and then let's say in between you might get some error, right? So you don't want to start with one. You would want to resume from the wherever you error happened and you fixed it. So let's say if you have completed 500, why do you want to start again your loop with one, right? You don't want to start that. So it is important to know the index also. So another way, which is the most used one, how we access it, instead of directly iterating over the list, right? What we do is we give the range, we check the length. Okay, so what we do is we actually just simply call it from the index. So if you see, this also will give you the same thing. The only thing is instead of directly accessing from the list, I just accessed it using index, that's all. So fruit mera list hai and then usme I'm passing the index and changing this index. So first index was 0, then it was 1, then it is 2. So now how can I iterate over the index? I should know what is the length of the fruits, right? So length of the fruits, I know it is 3. and then range of the 3 is 0, 1, 2, right? So simply instead of directly accessing the element, I have iterating over the index, and then that index I'm using to get the value. That is the only difference. And use case I already told you, because in this case what I do is I will be printing the index also, so that I know where it has failed. Let's say if this is 1,000 times, right? So I know where it has failed. I will, resume it from there itself instead of directly start over. What I can do is, let's say it failed at after 1 it failed. So why do I have to run 0 again? I will start with 1, right? So I will start with 1, and then again I will just simply run 1, 2, 3, whatever it is. I won't run 0. Clear? Okay, then we have nested loops. So you can have the nested loops as well, right? Let's say if you want to iterate over 2 or more variables at the same time, right? So it allows uses of one loop inside the other loop. The following section shows a few examples to illustrate the concept, right? You can put any type of loop inside any other loop. For example, a for loop can also be inside a while loop or vice versa. So there is no restriction. आप for loop के अंदर for loop भी use कर सकते हो. You can use while loop also, or vice versa also. So let's say if you want to implement this, right? So let's say you want to iterate your I ranging from 1 to 10, right? And then you want to generate some table, and then again another variable j in range of this. So always remember, you cannot use again I over here, because there is certain value to I over here, right? If you will again change I to this, your program will be confused. So these two variables should be different. So if you are using I over here, choose other variable over here. So typically we choose I and j, and likewise you can see that's how you can multiply this. You want to see quickly? You can do that. So as you can see here, their indexing is not proper. That's why you are seeing this, right? So with for loop, I am getting this red color thing. So I have to give proper indentation. Now you see for mein proper nahi hai. That's why it is giving me error. So there was one space less. So just be cautious about whenever you are copying pasting from somewhere, right? From the web or some other location. So these things happen. So make sure you are not getting any red color line, because that indicates a syntax error. So if we do that, you see it has generated table. So basically it start with 1, then you are ranging from 1, 2, 3, 4 like that 10, and then again starting with 2, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 10. Likewise you can do. Okay, cool. Okay. hmm. Sorry. Yeah. So what are the other things within the software development, right? So let's now, so abhi tak humne we saw the basic examples of loop and all, right? Now let's look into more additional or more practical looping techniques. Let me say that, right? It is more practical because we typically put loops in list, in dictionary, or in data frame, right? So how do we actually use those loops, right? So let's look at that. Okay, so when looping through dictionary, the keys and corresponding value can be retrieved at the same time using item methods, right? So how we can put a loop on dictionary? So let's look at that. Look at this example. So you have to make sure that you are removing all these redundant things. Okay. So okay. Yeah. So as I was telling yesterday, right? These codes are not correct because you copy paste, then these thing happens. So I have to make codes correctly. Yeah, now you see. So what it does is, सबसे पहले देखते हैं what is fruit items. Okay, so if you see this dictionary fruit items, it is telling you all these are items. Okay, so now here if you see, I give 2 variables instead of 1. Why? Because as you can see, there are 2 variables in one item. Okay, so what it is doing, in one loop, I mean in one item. So if you see, length of this item is 2, right? So if I do the length, it is 2 because you have this one box and this one box, right? Now within one box there is a key value pair. So this is pair only, right? So if you see length is 2, so it will run twice. So that's why you see 2 lines. But since there are 2 values within that, that's why you have to give 2 variables. So k will be your apple because k is the first thing, right? Your k is the key and v is the value. So that's how you can assign k and v at the same time. Clear? So that's how you can iterate over dictionary. So because there are key and values to the item, so that's why you have to give 2 variables at the same time, so that it knows that first iteration is this apple red pair, and it know k is apple and v is red. Similarly, second iteration mein k is mango and v is yellow. Clear? Likewise, you can use these values for some other purpose. Okay. Then you have looping through multiple sequences, right? A quick look at zip function is needed to understand this section. So okay, so let's look at what is zip function. Okay, fine. So names and gender. Okay, so let me show you first zip function. What is zip function? Okay, so here I have given two list. Okay, and there is this gender list. Okay, so these are the two lists which I have defined. Now I am just doing the zipping, and let's see what it does. Okay. So you see what it has done is, as you zip, right? So basically, let's say if you want to create a data frame, not even data frame, you want to give 101 value. So what it is telling is, मान लीजिए आपके पास दो डिफरेंट, एक बंदे का नाम है and then there is gender or age, it is in two different list. Now you want to create a 101 or a dictionary kind of thing. So if you zip it, what happens is it put Ben and 0 together. Similarly, it put Chen and 0 together because order will matter. It will put Yakin and 1 together. So let's see, will it work if I give more values over here? If it is not similar thing, then it won't. It will. Okay, it did not give error, but the problem is it did not even consider it, right? It just ignored this one over here or whatever I give after this, because it know that there are only 3 names, so I just have to use these 3 value only. So it will ignore the afterward value. Okay, but if you try to create a data frame out of it, it will give error. Okay, so zipping, what it does is basically it just create a pair 101 of two different lists, right? And then once you zip it and then you encode it as a list, now it has become list, right? Similarly, you can use tuple also. This will also create the similar thing. Okay, then you can in fact give the dictionary also. So dictionary, it will create a dictionary like that, right? So likewise, you can use 2 or more list for create a loop. Okay, so how do we loop through such multiple sequences? Okay, so let's say I have zip, right? So this is the zip object. Okay, so again, it is, if you see, it is very much similar to your dictionary item only, because now you know that you have zipped these two things. Okay, so in zipping the two things in one iteration, I have 2 variables at the same time. So again, you have to give 2 values, I and j, in for one iteration instead of one, because now you have 2 values. Correct? So like let's try that out, right? For I comma j in name and age, print I comma j. ठीक है, you'll see. क्योंकि यहाँ पे हर एक iteration में 2 values थे, so that's why you are getting 2 values. I is Ben and J is your gender. I hope this is clear. How do you iterate over dictionary or multiple items at the same time, right? Now, loop control techniques. So what are loop control techniques? How do you ensure, let's say if you are running something, but let's say you hit some condition, and if you want to break in between, or if you want to continue, or if you want to pass. So all these are loop control techniques. So break, which means that, as name suggests, it will terminate the loop statement and transfer execution to the statement immediately following the loop. So it will break the loop in between, and it will go to the next statement following the loop. So it will come out of the loop. Okay. Then we have continue. It causes the loop to skip the remainder of the body and immediately retest its condition prior to reiterating. So what it does is continue, if you put, it will skip the main body in which it is and immediately retest the condition and do the iterating. And we will see these use cases now, then things will be more clear. And pass is nothing but it simply pass the statement as a null operation. Nothing happens when it executes. It is also useful in places where your code will eventually go but has not been written yet. So you can use it like as a dummy variable, that okay, let's say if you have not think through ki what should happen if that happens, right, but you still want to write code, you can simply say if this happens then simply pass. You can say that I will that write that dummy code later. Okay. So now let's see what is the examples, right? So for example, for letters in Python, if letter is equal to h, then pass. Okay. Print this is pass block, otherwise print the letter. Let's see, right? Let's try to put this in Python and let's see what happens. Okay. Yeah, so again, some issue with this because this is not properly closed, right? Yeah, now it happens. Now you see. So what happens is for letters in Python, it will go one by one, right? Because it is a list. So first will happen P. So if letter is equal to P, it is no. So it will not go within this. So these two lines are ignored, right? So that's why this indentation is important, because it knows that these two lines are like part of this if loop. Okay, and yeah, sorry, I think I missed this part. So to define if loop is, you give if and then you give the statement or the condition and then you put this colon simply. And whatever you want to execute, if this condition is true, you give the indentation in the next line and you do the statement. And where you want to come out, you just come out from the indentation simply. Okay, so if this condition is not true, these two lines will be ignored. It will directly go to this. So it will print this current letter is P. So that likewise you can see it has printed PYT, but as soon as it came to H, so this condition gets true. Now you have said that you pass it. Okay, so you pass it, which means that it will simply read this line and it will go to the next loop. So it will pass, which means that it has not done anything, right? So it has done this, it has gone here, and it has even printed this H also. This is pass block because it will not come out because this is not a break statement, right? It is just like a dummy thing. So it has printed this also, it has printed this also, and then again it goes on. So it goes on to O, it goes on to N. Okay, so pass is nothing but, I mean, if you can just put a dummy thing over here. Okay, fine. Or maybe some kind of information. So let's say if you want to check that whenever you are running something, at which so let's say you want to set a milestone, that if you have crossed 500 iteration, just show me this. So like that, likewise you can say that if your iterations are 500, put a pass and print you have reached half of the milestone, and then go on, right? Likewise you can do. Okay. Other statement also we will see in detail, so don't worry about it. Then we have the iterator. So iterator is an object which allows a programmer to traverse through all the elements in collection, right? So list is a iterator, because when we put that for I in list, it will be iterating one over other element, right? Starting with 1, 2, 3, 4, regardless of its specific implementation. In Python, an iterator object implements two methods, itr and next. So we will see that, right? Yeah. Okay, so string, list, tuple objects can be used to create an iterator, right? Let's see what it does. Okay, so let's see what all it does. Mhm. Let's print ID also. Okay, so what happens is, um, okay, so in this what happens is, this is the list. Now I built this as a iterator object, so I simply used itr as a list. So if I printed it, you see what it gave. It has a list iterator object. Okay, now what I do is, if I do next of this I can see what is the value. So let's say if I do next of I got 2, because first I have already got. So now I will run it again, I will get 3. Now if I run it again, I will get 4. Sorry, let me run it again, I get 4. Now if I run it again, it will stop. It will say stop iteration. Okay, so these are different ways, right? So you can argue that I could have simply used for I in list, likewise that we used earlier, right? You can use that, there is no problem. It's just that this is more structured way, or this is more, what do I say, more ethical way to write or use these functions, right? Because there you won't get error when you have hit the iteration. Here you will get the error as that you have hit the iteration or the maximum number of list. So stop iterating over this element. Now you have to start over again, right? So iterator object can be traversed using for statement, as you can see, right? For x in it, you can see print x equal to this, or using next function, that while true, try this print next it, and whenever you get this stop iteration, you can just say that you exit out of the system. Okay, we will see all these try except command later on in error handling class, but for now just think of them like a error handling thing. Whenever a error happen, it will show you that error. It is for that error catching. Okay, cool. Then you have generator. A generator is a function that produces or yields a sequence of value using yield method. Okay, when a generator function is called, it returns a generator object without even beginning execution of the function. When the next method is called for the first time, the function start executing until it reaches the yield statement, which returns the yielded value. The yield cap tracks remember the last execution, and second next calls continue from the previous value. So it saves a lot of memory. So what we saw over here is iterator. Actually, it is a generator only, right? It is a list generator object. Why it is a generator? Because it remembered where it was earlier, right? Just now you saw. Like if I start over it again, it is 1. Now we know that 1 is already run. I have to get 2. Now when I run it again, it know that I have to start at 3, right? So it yield the last value. That's why we call these functions are generator. Okay, and where we can use it, like how do I use it? Simply it is for defining the functions, right? Because it saves a lot of memory. So now all these functions may not be so much relevant for you guys as of now, because you guys don't worry about memory, right? You guys don't with lot of heavy data and everything. So that's why you don't have to bother about it. But as you will grow more, right? So that's why there was one slide, because these things are more relevant to a more data engineer guy who deals with a lot of data, right? So those guys need uh, you know this kind of functions. But this is just for your information, this is just good to know. Okay, so even if you are not getting completely what are all these things are, you can, I mean, it's completely fine, because you are not going to use it as it is at the initial level. At least these are for much higher advanced people. Okay. So like let's try to do this, right? Let's try to create this function. uh, okay, so here as you can see, this is the function I have defined. So we will learn today only how we can define the function. But for here I'll just tell you quickly. So basically like whatever for things you are using, right? Like in math, we used math absolute and all these things, right? These are nothing but functions we are creating, taki we can use these functions over and over again. Similarly, you can also define some functions in Python, and that's how you can define that. You say def, which means that you are defining a function. You give the function name, you give the function argument, that what value you want to pass, and then you define this function. So whatever value you get, you want to iterate over this. So now this is not the value, this is the iterator, right? So this is the list or some kind of iterator, just where you can iterate, because in the function you are iterating over this, right? And simply you are generating the yield value. So let's run this right now. If you want to use this function, simply you call this square numbers, and then you gave all these list. So whenever I do that, okay, so let me do this minus, let me check that. Now it has generated a generator object, right? So what happened is, when I do the next of this, right? So you see 1. Now if I run this again, because first one was 1, right? Now if I run this again, I will get 4, right? Because 2 into 2 4. If I run it again, I will get 9. 3 into 3, because here I'm doing the square, right? So I just have to give the yield value, which means that it is a iterator. Okay, similarly, if I again 4, and if I run again, then I will get 25. And if I run this again, it will tell me that stop iteration. Now you have reached the complete list. Okay. What imagine if I don't give it as a list, right? I just give one single value. So it gave error. Why it gave error? It says that int object is not iterable, because here I'm iterating, right? You cannot iterate over int. It has to be iterator, so it has to be a string, or it has to be a a list or something. Because in this case, it has to be a list of numerical numbers, because you are actually making a power of it, right? So that's why. So if you give it as a list, it will work. Okay, so now it will work. You got 1, but next time if you will run, it will stop iteration, because I just gave 1. Likewise, you can give 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I hope this generator thing are clear. Now let's do some quizzing. Okay, fine. So tell me one thing, go through it and then tell me the answer. So this is the list for I in X. If I do this, what will be the answer? Just go through it and tell me the answer. Have you seen? Shall I switch back to the chat box? Am I getting the answers? Okay, I will show you again, and then I will answer all your questions. Okay, so X equal to A, B, and C, D hai. So what we are iterating for I in X, right? And then I'm appending X dot append, then I dot upper. तो इसको मैं basically upper में convert कर रही हूँ. You think like that, right? I am putting it into upper. So A, B capital में हो गया है, and then I'm simply appending it, right? And then I'm printing X at the end. So what do you think you will get? Any idea? B, A. Okay, let's try it out. Okay, then we will see. So okay. So there seems to be some problem. Why some problem? For I in X, and then I did X dot append, and then I dot upper. So basically I am appending in this only, right? And then I'm making this I as a uppercase. So if you see what it is doing, why it has become this indefinite loop, can somebody tell me? So that's what I was telling you. Be careful that you are making sure that you are not creating this as an indefinite loop. This has become indefinite loop because you are keep on appending in X only, right? In this variable only. You see this asterisk symbol is still on. So this symbol is still on. Iska matlab it is still running. You can see here also it is still processing. So you have to kill this. So I interrupted the kernel. Now it has stopped. Now it has stopped. So you will see at the end you will get error. Okay. And what is the problem over here is because I am appending in this X only. So it's never gonna end. It's always gonna increasing. So the correct way should be what I feel this. Of course your answer is none of the mentioned. But if you really want to correct it, the correct way should be you create a empty variable or empty list, and then here you append. So now you see if I do the what do you say, uh, print y over here, what is this list is, then it will make sense. Then it is simply a, b, and c, d. Does it make sense why it was not? So ideally, I mean, so if the intention was the question, to make you guys understand that it is indefinite, then yes, this is the right answer. But if this question is wrong, so ideally you should be appending into a new variable or a new list, and then your answer would be this a. Okay. So whoever answered A, I can understand it is right, because you guys might be thinking that way, that it's a new list, but there it it was kind of a trick question. Okay, that it was getting appended into X. That's why you were getting this none of mentioned. Clear? Okay, let's try to do this one. I is equal to 1, right? And while true, okay, uh, if I remainder divide by 3 is equal to 0, then only it will break. Otherwise, it will go on and you are adding it up I equal to 1. Now, do you want to see what you will get? You want to guess? Think through it. So when your I will be, uh, uh, so what it is, when you divide any number by 3 and you will get a remainder of 0, when that gonna happen? I equal to 3 pe, right? Which means that you will get 2. So your answer will be A, not B, because your printing statement is here. Let's try it out. Now you will see. Your printing statement is here. If your printing statement would have here at the top, then you might have printed 3 and then it have stopped. But you are printing after breaking. So as soon as you hit 2, right? As soon as you hit 2 and you have gone to 3, you will break immediately. So you will not be able to print. So answer is A. Okay, cool. Now, in this case, this is very much similar. Here you tell me what is the answer. Pay attention, you are adding 2 over here, not 1. So it's always going to be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. A, why D? It will be A, right? Because it will always be a even number. You are adding 2 in 2. It's never going to be odd number, right? But okay, but yeah, so you can divide by 3 also, right? So let's see. I think it should go on till at 12 it will break, because 12 is divisible by 3, right? And there it will break. Let's see that. Oh, so 2, 4, oh, sorry, 6 is also breakable, right? Yeah, sorry, my bad. It will break at 6 also. So 2 and 4 is answer. B is the answer. So whoever answered B is correct. It won't give error, right? So you guys got it. So it added 2 and then 4 and then 6 is divisible. So that's why it broke. Okay, I was thinking 12 is divisible, but yeah, 6 is also divisible, so it broke. Okay, so 2 and 4 is the answer. Now, what is the output of this following? X equal to A, B, C, D, F, I equal to I, while I in X, print this. You want to try? Let's try it out. It did not printed anything. Why? Can somebody just look through it? It did not printed anything. Can somebody tell me why? I will be very happy if you are able to tell me this. Why? No, I is a string. So no, no. Acha. Let me do this. See, it printed now. And again, it became indefinite loop. Let me close it. So earlier it was not printing because this condition was never true. I was never in X. You tell me, I is here? No. So I was never here. That's why this never condition was never true, and that's why it was not printing anything. But now as soon as I put B, which means that B is in X, right? So B is in X. Now I am simply printing it. There is no end, right? That's what I say. It is very important to make this condition because there is no iterator. I'm not iterating my I, right? So it is getting similar to this while loop which I showed you. कि यहाँ पे मैंने इसको comment कर दिया था. So I am not iterating. So this condition will never be false. So always I will be printing. Correct? Okay. Yes. Whoever correct answered that I is not in the list is the right. And as soon as you give any variable, any character which is there in the string, then become indefinite loop. Okay, enough of loops. How many are still pending? Okay, 4 more questions. Then we'll take a quick break. Okay, so look forward to a break. Okay, so what does print I return in the following? Tell me. X is this. Now you have enough of this. So tell me quick, fast. I in X, print I, then X dot upper. A, B, C, or error? Y, C, D, I'm seeing. Okay, whenever I get less majority of the thing, I want to show you guys. So according to me, it should be A. Let's see. Okay, it's none. Actually, it is A, B, C, D. And again, it is a trick question. Let me do one thing. Now I will see. Okay. For I in X, print I. Now I have X. Okay, this is strange. Actually, earlier it was like this, right? So when you do X equal, so I'll tell you what I was saying. So let's say I have assigned something this, right? Now if I do A dot upper, okay. So what happened is it has converted, but if I see my A, it is still small because I did not save it. So what I was trying it out, let me save it into some other variable, right? And then, okay, I got it. What was the problem? So it will be A, B, C, D. Even though if I do X equal to this, it won't because we know strings are immutable. So I cannot assign this X dot upper into this. It won't work. So that's why you will always be seeing A, B, C, D only. Clear? Got it? Okay, I hope you guys got it. Okay, so answer is B only because you cannot assign back to string. So that's why it will always be a small and then one by one you are printing all this. Similarly here, range of X, print I. Wanna guess? Range of X, print I. I think it will be error. Yes. Why? Simply I should have given length of X, not X, because range of X is a string. There is no range for string, right? A string cannot be interpreted as integer. If I give length, then it should work because now it's became number. So you see now it has worked. Okay, so it was an error. Clear? Let's go quickly over this. For I in range of float INF, print I. This is interesting. Anybody want to take a guess? Float INF क्या है? उसका range, and then I'm printing that. Even I'm not sure, to be very honest. So yeah, it gave error because float INF cannot be interpreted as integer. Let's see what is float INF. It's INF again. It's just infinity. So it cannot be interpreted as a range. So that's why again it is error. Okay, I think this is repeating. So this we already know it is error. Okay, cool. So now we'll be starting to function. So let's take a quick 10 minutes break. We'll again come back at 12:30. Okay, and then we'll resume from the functions. Clear? Okay. Yeah. So let me quickly type it over here. Okay, we'll be back in 10 minutes. Hey, hi everyone. Am I audible? Okay, perfect. Sorry, there was some connection issue, so I was not able to join. Yeah, so I hope everybody is back. So let's get started. Let me share my screen. Yeah, I hope my screen is visible to everyone. Okay, cool. Let's get started. Yeah, so we'll start with functions. So I believe most of you will already know by now what is the functions and all, but let's start from scratch. So what is function? Why do we need it? Then how do we define it? Okay. So let's try writing a function and calling it. Okay. So as I have already explained, why do we need function? Okay, so we need function. Let's say if you want to perform some operations over and over again and again. If anywhere you feel that this is a repetitive code line of code which you are doing it again and again. So instead of doing it multiple times, you just save it and store it as a function. Now what will happen is those 10 or 5 or whatever 1500 line of code, whatever it is, you have created as a function. Now wherever you want to call that function, you can simply call that one single line. So that now you can think of how much length it can be reduced of your code, and also it is very much readable. So if we call this format as making your code modular. Okay, what is modular? Modular kitchen तो सबने सुना होगा, right? What does it mean? Why do we call modular kitchen? तो होता क्या है, all the fittings and measurements these guys will be taking, they will be building it somewhere else, and they will be just be fixing it. Correct? So that's what the modular is. You build somewhere else and then you fix it by simply calling it. So that is what function is. In fact, you can create function from different file also. So let's say if your file is very long, like your code is very long, you can simply define function in some other file. You mention clearly that this is function file, in which you define as many as function as you want, and you can simply call this function into a other file. And now you can imagine that how simple your code would be. Okay, so let's create a very simple function, right? So let me create a very simple function over here. What we can do is, let's say define I can say define a function name one. Okay, let's say name one function I define. It doesn't take any argument as of now, so it just print hello world. Okay, this is this function. This is very simple function. That's why you may not even see the value. You might say ki ma'am yahan bhi ek line hai, and when you call then also it will be one line. Then what is the point? But this is just example. Here it can be 100 line of code also. Still wherever you will be calling me, that will be one single line. So what you can do is, I can call this function and I can say that name one to be hai, whatever it will come, right? It will be assigning it into. So you see here, as soon as I call this name one function, it called it, and in within this function I said print hello world, so it has printed. So let's say if I run this without this, right, it won't do anything because I'm not calling it. So that's why you don't see any printing over here. Printing will only happen when you are calling it. And how do I call it? Simply by calling the function name, that's all. So I called it, here you can see the hello world. So that's a simple function example. Likewise, you can 100 line of code. Okay, as above example proves, a function is thus a group of statement clubbed together, which is reusable and used to perform a specific task. Function begin with a keyword def. So wherever you see this def, which means that somebody has defined a function. Okay, remember reserved keyword. So this is a reserved keyword, okay, and enclosed with parenthesis. So definition DEF, then you have to give a function name which is enclosed in a parenthesis, and this is colon. Again, you will be giving as a indentation to make sure that where this defined function, what all things are included within this definition function. As soon as you come out of this loop or this indentation, that is another line that is not part of this function. Okay. So what is function, right? You give any output, it process whatever it is there in the function and it gives you the output. Okay. You give any input, it gives you the output. That is what the function is. Okay. So let's take this. You are required to find a country's name based on the currency. and you need to do this time again and again. So whenever you get a country name, you have to know that what is the currency. So what you did, you defined a function called guess the currency. You are taking an input. The first here we were not giving any input. We gave blank parenthesis. So that also you can do. You can define a function without argument. So we call that input as argument. Argument matlab whatever input you want to take, right? So here it is no argument. Here we are defining an argument that is currency, CUR. Okay. So now you have to make sure that whatever variable or argument you have assigned, that same argument you are using internally, because that is what it is linked, right? That whatever you get from the outside, that is input, right? That input will become value for this CUR. Okay. So if currency is GBP, then print the country is UK. If it is USD, then print this, then print this, then print this. So here you have used if else also. So if else also you have used seen, right? That so many times it has used. So you can use if this happened, then print this. Else if ka short form hota hai elif. So we use elif. Okay. If this is not true, else, then new condition, elif. Then again elif this, and at the last you can print else. Else bus ko yaar enough. You can print anything what you want. Okay. So similarly here you can use this, and you can just print the enter currency. So you can give the input and guess the currency country function you can run, and it will simply work for you. Okay. So why did we all this? Just to show you how function works, how we can pass certain inputs and then invoke a function. Defining a function only gives it a name, specifies the parameters that are to be included in the function. So these parameters are nothing but arguments, and structure the block of the code. Once the basic structure of a function is finalized, you can execute it by calling it from another function or directly from the Python prompt. You can call it again and again. Okay, you pass input to a function by means of passing by reference or by values. We will come to this directly shortly. Okay, an input parameter or argument should be placed within the parenthesis. So we put argument within the parenthesis. A function can also invoke another function from within it. So you can use another function within that function. So that also we can do. Basically, it's a nesting, right? So you can do that as well. Okay. A function can also return a back value. So we will see how we can use return statement over here. So far we were not returning from the function. We were just printing it out. Okay. And then statement return expression exists the function, optionally passing back an expression to the caller. We will see where this return statement we have used. Okay. So calling a function, right? So defining a function only gives it a name, specifies the parameters that are to be included. So let's say you have given a function that is print me, and you give the string, and then you can simply print that string, and then you are returning something, right? So now when you call this print me function, what will happen is you are simply printing it out. But here in return, you have not printed anything. Okay. So let me show you what I meant. So let's take this, right? Okay. And when I do this print me, and let's say case, okay. It printed case, but when I print X, it is blank. Why? Because I put return, but I did not return anything. Okay. Instead, if I could have written return str, then if you see, I ran this, it has a still printed case because I was printing over here. But when I press X, it has written this. It has written case. So typically we use function with a return statement because printing is not the task we want to do, right? We want to return some values. क्योंकि आप pre-processing किया होगा. Function, the whole point of function is you take some input, you pre-process, and you get some output. So you have to save that output, right? So to save the output, you have to return that output. So never forget that any of the function if you might be, what happens most of, at least it has happened so many times with me, that I will be doing all the calculation within the function, and then I forgot to return the values. So in that case, what happened is, I am passing this, but just now you saw it was giving me blank. So I was getting the blank values. Then I realized, okay, I was not returning anything. So make sure whenever functions you are processing, after pre-processing, let's say it may happen, right? It may happen as simple as that. There is another variable. This is a uppercase converting into uppercase. So str dot upper. I'm simply converting into upper, and I'm just simply returning s1. So as you can see, now it is uppercase. I passed a in lowercase statement, and then I'm getting the uppercase every time. So this function does. Okay, so never forget to return whatever value you want to return, right? Out of that function. Okay, so now this is pass by reference versus pass by reference. Pass by ref versus pass by reference. So all parameters in the Python language are passed by reference. Any change within the function also reflects back in the calling function. So let's try to understand what does it mean. So let's say you have a list which you are passing, and you have defined a function change list. So it takes input as a list. Then you are just simply printing the ID of the list. There is certain ID to all the variable and all the functions, right? So you are simply printing the ID of that list, and then you are again appending a into that, and then you are returning. Okay, again return, it is blank, you have not returned anything as of now. So when I do this, right, when I do this, what happens? uh, when I'm simply checking the ID of initially list, it is 38, this one, right? And when I ran this function, it executed this line, which is same as this ID, right? Then it appended into a list, because when I ran the list function, it has given this 123a. Okay, so now it has changed the L value itself. Okay, so we call it as passed by reference. Okay, I will repeat again. I'll show you in here and will repeat again what I meant. Okay, now I have just done change list L. Okay, so now also if I see ID of L, it is this, right? It is same. And if I print L, now it has changed. Okay, so by default, what it does is, even though I did not, so what does it mean? Even though I did not, assign in this into a variable, but in here I was doing this list assignment into the list append. That's why this got appended. But let's imagine if I don't do this, if I don't reassign it, then what happened? Will it still work? Will it still work, as in will still in the new L I will have this value or not? That is what I wanted to check. Okay, so now also it is happening, because simply list dot append means it got appended into a list. Okay, so your list will be changed, right? Rather if it would have been any other operation, then this may not happen, then your list may not be changing. Okay, but this is list dot append operation, so your list itself get changed. So that's the reason you are seeing it has changed now here. Okay. Sorry. Then you have this keyword arguments. So as I was telling, right, we call these arguments, right? Now what is keyword argument? Are related to the function calls. When you use keyword arguments in a function call, the caller identifiers the argument by parameter name. Okay, so we call all these arguments as keyword argument, and it is defined as the name, the variable. So we can pass multiple arguments also. So far I show you only one parameter we passed, right? That is one list. I could have passed two variables also, three variables also. Typically we write function in which we pass always more than 3-4 variables. Okay, because that is what the ultimate point is. So here you can pass name and age as well, and then what you are assigning is this very, you just have to remember the order of it. So let's say here, if you are giving name and age over here, right? So what you can do is, here name is this variable and age is this variable. Okay. So now you can interchange also, but if you are interchanging, you have to give the our keyword name specifically, that name is Mickey and age is 50. Because if you don't assign it and put it this way, right, so it will what it will understand, that name is 50 and age is Mickey. So it will think like that, because according to this, name should come first before age. So always remember, either you give in a same order how you have defined in your function, the argument I'm talking about, or the best way is you use these keyword arguments. Like age is this, name is this, whatever is given here, you clearly say that these are the variable and these are the values, so that there is no confusion at all. Okay, clear? So a default argument, what is default argument? So default argument is nothing but you can give some value also over here, right? So what does it mean? That it is okay if I don't give any age value over here. Okay, so let me show you here, right? I think by showing it, things will be more clear to you. So what I mean to say is, huh. So let me put a hash sign here. Why it is giving error? Okay, so there was this. Okay, cool, fine. So what I was saying is, agar मैंने print info, and then if I did the interchange, if I gave 50 first and then Neha like this, so you see, it has assigned name as 50 and age as Neha, which is incorrect, right? So that's what I'm saying. Because it is following this order, that name should come first. So that's why it has worked like that. If you really want to make sure that there is no problem, you always give a proper assignment, that you give age is this and name is this, so that there is no confusion at all. Now it is fine, right? So this is what I was telling. Now another thing, let's say if I don't give this, right? What if I don't give this? Will it run? No. It will say that missing one required positional argument. It is saying that name you have not given, because I have not defined anything over here. It doesn't know what to print instead of name. Rather, if I would have given some default value over here, let's say NN, okay? So now if I run this, right? Just a second, why it is, there is some issue. I'm not sure why. Uh-huh. Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. So this happens a lot. So whenever you are giving any default argument, na, it should be at the last. So what I mean to say is, it should come first. So whatever value you are giving, na, that argument should come at last. So it follows certain order. So now if you see, it will run. Earlier, what was the problem? I was giving a variable with a default value prior to some other variable which does not have any default value. Okay, so that's why it was not working. But now it has worked, and now this one also work. Why? Because now it know that what to print if nothing is given. So it knows that I have to print NN instead of name when nothing is given. Now let's say if I give name, it will override that simply. If I give Neha, it will override NN. So we call that as a default argument. So typically we have all these default values, let's say, because it happens most of the time, right? You want to use some function, and in fact you have seen, right, whatever function we call, like yesterday we saw some functions, right? So there was some already a default value defined for it, right? Let's say if you user is not giving anything, then it will use it. But let's say if user has given something, it will overwrite it. Okay, so we call it as default argument. So here we have given default argument that age equal to 35, and always remember that these default argument you have to give at the last. या तो ये हो कि आप दोनों में डिफॉल्ट आर्ग्यूमेंट दे रहे हो, like both has some value, then there is no problem. But always make sure whatever variable has default argument, that is at the last, and you are giving without default argument at the first. Okay, so these are the few things. So this is we called as default argument, where you have certain default values. Now variable arguments. What is variable arguments? User may need to process a function for some arguments, right? Then specified while defining the function. They are called variable length arguments. So variable length arguments where I actually don't know initially that how many values it can have. Okay, so we define it as with the asterisk symbol. So as you can see here, we have this variable name, then we have this asterisk symbol. So we call it as variable argument. Again, variable argument should come at the last, right? So asterisk symbol is placed before the variable name that holds the value of all non-keyword variable argument. Okay, so it is clearly written, right? This tuple remains empty if no additional arguments are specified during the function call. So what does it mean? As you can see here, right? I have printed this print student marks. So I'm printing the name, and then this one I'm not clear that what is the length of this variable. So what I have done for marks in student marks, print marks. Okay, let me show it over here. I'm sorry, I have cold, so I'm struggling to speak as well. Okay, so what did it do? Again, there is this quotes problem. Yeah, as you can see, right, that it is a variable length. Like you can say that I did not define that after this what all things can come and what all will things will come, or what is this variable. So what it will assume, okay, name is xyz, and then whatever is there in place of this, sorry, because I have put extra mark here, so it knows that whatever variables after this first string, right, it is all belong to this student marks. Right, now what I do, that I'm simply iterating over this in student marks and simply printing those marks. So I can in fact delete this. I can have just two also, so it will print two. Let's see, if I give list, then what happens? Will it print? It printed this simply list. Okay, so it will consider this as a one single thing. So that's why for marks in this, it just printed the first value. It did not went inside this. So that is what the variable argument does. Okay, then you have some anonymous functions also. You can use lambda keyword to create small anonymous function. So we will see that. So these are all when you have some very big operations to perform, right? But there are very simple one line functions also to perform. So you can use lambda function for that. So there is a key called there is this word, you can actually type lambda. So if I type lambda na, lambda, you saw it turned green. So turn green matlab this is a reserved word for a small functions, and we will see where we have used it. Okay. So this lambda keyword is also used for small anonymous functions. These are called anonymous because they are not declared in the standard manner like def keyword. Okay. Lambda forms can take any number of arguments but return just one value in the form of an expression. They cannot contain commands or multiple expressions. So it is just one line values. We will see that, right? One line syntax. An anonymous function cannot be a direct call to print because lambda requires an expression. Lambda function have their own local namespace and cannot access variables other than those in the parameter list, those in the global namespace. Okay, let's first understand how it is used. Then things will be more clear. Okay, so simply आप ऐसे use कर सकते हो. Right, so let's say if you want to define some function for summing up, you just define lambda, you say argument 1, argument 2, and this is your colon, and then this is your thing. So that's why it says that it will always take one value. It cannot be in multi-line. It is a single line function. So let's say if I did that, sum equal to let's say, well, sum is also reserved, so avoid assigning a variable which is reserved, right? So sum 1 equal to lambda argument 2, you put colon and tell what you want to do. ठीक है, आपने ये रन कर दिया, and then let's say if I just want to use it, sum 1 10 comma 30, that's all, you got 40, right? So whatever, if you have multiplication, you will get multiplication 300, right? So likewise, you can use this quick functions. So we call it as quick anonymous function. You don't have to define variable because again, it is multi-line, right? So if it is a single line thing, you can do it this way. Okay, we call it as anonymous function. Then coming to return statement. So as we already know, right, the statement return function exists a function. So as soon as you type return, it will come out of the function, optionally passing back an expression to the caller. A return statement with no argument is same as return none. So you saw it, right? If you are not returning anything, just typing return, like we saw, we print return blank, right? It was not returning anything. So it was return none. But if you really want to return something, you just say that return name. So when you assign that function into some variable, you will get that value in that variable. Okay. Let's try this. Write a function which takes length and breadth of a rectangle and returns the area. Okay, so that is something you can try it at home. Okay, so scope of variables, all variables in a program. So scope of variables means अगर मैंने एक function में define किया है some variable, can I use that variable after that function? Yes, you can. Okay, provided if it is a local variable or it is a global variable. Right, so all variables in a program may not be accessible at all location in that program. That depends on where you have declared a variable, right? So the scope of a variable determines the portion of the program where you can access a particular identifier. So there are two basic scopes, global and local. Global is you can define that function outside all the function and you don't have to define it anywhere else, right? So for example, अभी क्या होता है, मैंने a print किया, right? और क्योंकि a मैंने define किया, a1 print किया, it is telling me a1 is not defined because imagine अगर मैंने a1 I might have defined in some other notebook. So you can see I have defined in some other notebook, but will it consider here? No, because these are local variables. I have not said that this is global variable, but imagine if I have defined that it is a global variable and this is the value. So no matter what, no matter whatever scripts I use, it will be a global variable and you will never get this error that this particular function is or variable is not defined. Okay, that is the difference between a global and local variable, right? So now let's see, try to understand more. Okay. And local variables are, it is defined in a functions and cannot be accessed outside. So let's simply imagine like this, right? मैंने यहाँ name use किया है, but still again अगर मैं यहाँ name print करूँ, it will give me error that name is not defined. You can say that I have defined name here within this thing, but it is a local variable. So it is defined within this function only. Outside this function, it does not have any value. And that's why you are getting this error. So this is local variables, right? Therefore, some names can be used for local and global variables. Local variable shadows global variable. So let's see, right? So if I say a equal to 99, right? And let's do this, right? Then things will be clear to you guys. Okay, so अगर मैंने a इस function के बाहर I have defined it, so a equal to 99, this is a global variable. Now let's say I have defined some function and here I have used this another same variable a and I have assigned 88 and then I'm printing it. Okay, so this is a local assignment. Why? Because you see when I call this function, I got answer as 88. But when I print a over here, now if I print a, it is 99 because globally I have assigned a as 99. So anything outside the function is a global variable for this notebook, right? And anything within the function, it is a local variable within this function. So within this function, if I say, right, because I have written print a over here, right? So that's why it is printing 88 over here. If I would have written this a, right? And let's say if I assign this in x, तो x का वैल्यू क्या होगा, 88 और 99? Put it in chat. अब x का वैल्यू क्या होगा, 88 और 99? You guys want me to go back to the notebook? 88. Somebody answer 88. Yes, x का value 88 होगा because it was a local assignment for this where function. Clear? I'm happy at least you guys are able to understand what is this local and global, right? Because again, all these things are very important, not in general, but when you are trying to debug, when you see this value is not getting printed, value is different than others, so you should know that what is the scope of the variable, right? Where it will override, where it will not override. So that's why it is very important to understand these things. Now, invoking a global variable inside a function. So how you can invoke? So let's say if I want to, I have defined something and I want to make sure that within the function also that variable assigned happen, right? It should not be like that it is not happening. So for example here, आप बोल सकते हो मैंने यहाँ तो define किया है, right? I have defined a equal to 99 over here. Why have to redefine it again? क्योंकि अगर मैं अभी इसको run करूंगी, I will get error. I will get error that a is not. Wait, I will, let me do this. Okay, so, okay, to access a global variable inside a function, use the statement global variable name. Okay, try some example again, only make sure the time of a value of a is same as global a. Okay, cool. So here what happened is, अगर मान लीजिए मैंने यहाँ पर if I have commented this line, what does it mean? That I don't want to override this value, right? And whatever is the global assignment has happened, it will be that value only. And that's the reason it is not giving any error. It is printing a equal to 99 because I have assigned it globally. Okay. And let's say if you want to change something only for within this function, you can just change it locally within that function. Okay. Now there is another thing called map function. It applies a given function to each item or a iterable and return a list of results. Okay, we'll see where it is used. So the function is map function iterable. So imagine I want to apply this function, right? Let's write that area wala function. Na? So let me write this area, calculating area, and I want length and width for this. So simply print area, or let me store area. Area is equal to L into width, and I'm just returning area. Okay, so I have written this function. Now let's say I want to put it into a, I have to apply it over a list, right? So I can do that using this map function. Okay, so let's take simple. अभी यहाँ पे two arguments है. Let me imagine it's a square and L and width are same, right? So let me do that for a simplicity. Then we'll move on to two variable at the same time. So let's say I have given the list. So again, L1. Let's say L1 I have given, and this list is 10, 20, 30. Okay. Now, okay, what happened? Oh, sorry. So yeah, this is also another thing, duplicate argument in definition function. So you see what is the problem? You cannot pass two variable with the same name. So, and doesn't matter, right? You should be just passing one single thing. So now it will work. So now how can I apply the map function? Simply map, call that function. The function is area, right? And the list. So now it has given the variables, but it is a iterable. So what I can do is, if I want to access this for loop laga ke, I can check what it is there, right? So if I do print I, within this, I can see all these values. So you see, it has put it this map, this map function. What it did, it applies this area function on that list. So it passed 10 first, it returned 100. Then it passed 20, then it returned 400, and then 900. So likewise, it has done that. Okay, so this is the map function. Simply it applies the function over a list. I don't have to write 3 or 4 times, right? Or I don't have to write any for loop for this. कि आपको just with a single map function it does the job. Okay, so function map passes each item to the iterable of this function, right? Iterable which is to be mapped. Okay, so we can pass multiple iterable to the map function and return value from the map. So map function applies a given function to each of the iterable and return a list of results. Now returned value from map object that can be passed into function like list, set, or so on. So I could have done the list of this as well, right? So if I do list of this, Hmm. Just a second. Yeah. So yeah. So okay. Let me save it in some variable result, and then I can simply do list.res. Why it is saying list? Is not callable. Just give me a moment. Let me copy paste this because this is exactly what I'm doing. It should not give any error. Okay. So here, if you see, it did exactly the same thing what we wrote. So we are calculating square. So we are passing some variable, and ultimately we are returning n cross n, the square of that, right? And then these are the numbers. So this is the list, right? So result may I mapped, I passes this function and I gave this list, or in this case it is tuple. I gave this tuple and then I printed the results, and then simply I have converted into a list. Let's see what it does. Okay, so it has converted. Yeah, so list object is not callable. Actually, there is some syntax mistake in here, because actually you cannot give list like this. Right. So because it's an iterable, so I believe you should be doing is result to list. I guess that would work. Okay, this is also not a iterator. Okay, so in this case, what we can do is simply search. What I do in such scenario when some things are not working as expected, right? So what I do is I want to convert a map function to a list, right? I will search for that only. How to convert a map function to list in Python. That's all. Because I mean, I'm accepting that I may not remember all the syntax all the time. So that's why I do like that, right? I simply followed this. So let's see here. So what we can do is here it has given the one example that this is the list I want to convert, and I have some function that's string.lower, and I'm passing this. Now this map object I'm simply passing into the list. So here it seems to work, right? But somehow it is not working for me, right? Let me debug, and let me try simply copy pasting this, sorry, in my system, and see whether it is working or not, right? So if I do that, I by mistake I pasted this also. So it is not working. It says list object is not callable. Now let's see why it is giving me. Now I think there is some issue. So it says use list, right? So let's try to, maybe it is some other list function which is using than mine. So there can be 2 or 3 different things for this. Either I am not using it properly, or my versions are different, because Python had different versions, right? So it may happen that the version which I have does not support. So this version of list command does not support the function which I'm trying to call, right? So this might be one possibility, but let's try to debug that. So that's why what I did, so I'm just telling you, and I'm happy that this is happening, because that's how actually we debug in a real life scenario when something doesn't work as expected, right? Because you are seeing here, right? So somebody has written this presentation, we prepare this presentation, which means that it might have worked in past. So it might happen that I might have different version. That's why this particular command is not working. right? This might be one possibility, or we are doing something different. Okay, so that's what we are trying to identify, why it was working earlier and why it is not working now. In fact, this person also confirmed that it worked that way, right? So now, so why it is not working? So now we have the answer. See what it says: a list subclass for Python 2 that behaves like Python 3 list. Okay, so it might happen that whatever these commands write, it used to work in Python 2, right? We are in a different version. We have different Python 3, and that is the reason why certain things doesn't work, because now they have changed the command. So now this list doesn't take like this. Okay, so that might be the reason why it is not working. But then I have to look for other thing, that then how do I do? See, here it is clearly written. If I go the second link, getting a map function to list in Python 3.x, because that for solution was for Python 2. Now let me see over here that why, how it can be done in Python 3, because I know I have Python 3, right? So how it can be done is, uh, again, it is saying that list map this, it is working in Python 3 plus. Many processes that iterate over iterable returns themselves. In most cases, this ends up saving memory and list. Look this. Okay, so if, so basically what it's saying is, let me try this one more time if it works at all. Otherwise, this already we have done, right? So this is another solution it is giving, that you have to iterate within the map. So we already done that. So that's how we were doing it earlier, right? We were iterating within this map list. So that is one way to do it. Let's say if these things are not working, right? Because if you see, this was also telling you the same thing, that you create a list of map function of this, right? This area L1, but it doesn't seem to work for us. It is, again, it is not working for us. So हर चीज को करने के दो एक से ज्यादा तरीका होता है. So what we can do is, ultimately I have to convert these result into a list, right? So if this thing are not working, I know it can work like that. So what I can do is, I can simply create a list of results, and then what I can do is, I can simply result dot append, right? This, that's all. So अगर मैंने ये किया, and if you want to see rest, you see I have got the list, and ultimately this is what I wanted, right? So, oh, it's fine if something is not working because of some version issue or some other issue. You can find the other way. So that is where you have to use your judgment. Try spending some time, try to understand why these things are not happening. If let's say something is not happening, you cannot stop your work, right? I cannot stop here that I'm not able to save the results, so now I will not work on this. I cannot do that. So I have to think of other ways of doing it. So think like, what do you want to do, and think of ways how you can do it. So I know this function somehow it is not working in my system, okay, because of the version issue. We have seen that it has version problem, but I know I want to convert into a list. So what I did, I simply iterated over in map function, because I know it's a iterator. You can clearly see, whenever you see iterator, you print that, you, it will tell you, uh, sorry, not map, there is this not result. Where did I save? uh, Map function. Okay, I have not saved it. So what I mean to say is, let's say R1 I have saved in this, right? And when you print R1, it will tell you it is a mapping function. So you know it's a iterator. So you can iterate it like this, and then you can save it like this. Okay, clear hua this thing? Anybody has any doubt specific to this example? I hope not. Okay, so what I will do is, I will simply copy paste this command for our future reference, because if somebody may fall into the same thing, right? Because these things will be sharing with you. So if this thing doesn't work, sorry, I think yeah, if this thing doesn't work, then try this out, right? Okay, cool, fine. So likewise, you can, map the functions. Now we saw what is the use of map, right? You can simply give multiple list also, items of two list. We gave number 1 and number 2, and we simply gave map, and then we gave the function that is lambda n1 n2, and then we just gave the list, because there were two arguments, so I have to give two values, and then when I do the print results, it gave me the value, just an addition of the two. So likewise you can give multiple iterator also to the map function. Okay, then you have filter function. So what this filter method does is, it constructs an iterator from elements of an iterable for which function returns true. Okay, in simple words, filter method filters the given iterable with the help of function that test each element in the iterable to be true or not. So basically, मान लीजिए, if you have some function, let's say you want to check if items in that list are greater than certain value or not. And if you just want to filter it out, if you just want to put those variables which are actually greater than this and avoid other items, you can do that using filter, right? So filter method again takes two parameter. It's a function that tests if an element of an iterable returns true or false. If none, the function defaults to identity function, right? Iterable which is to be filtered out, right? So let's look at the examples. Okay. Return value from the filter. So it returns an iterator that pass the function check for each element in an iterable. So let's look at the examples. Okay. Let me copy paste in over here so that it's easy. Right. So what are we saying over here is, okay, we have defined this function filter vowels. So basically we will be passing a string and we want to identify whether it is a vowel or not. Okay, and how do we do it? We have defined vowels over here. It is A, E, I, O, U. So what I'm saying is, if alphabet, right? So first of all, this is definition function, right? So my indentations are not correct, so I have to correct them out, right? I have to press a tab. So shift to tab, if you do, you will be coming back to the original position. Then if you do tab, it is now fine. Okay. So I have defined this variable. So what I'm saying is, if alphabet in vowel, so basically jo bhi alphabet hai, whatever alphabets you are given, if that in vowel, then you return true, else you return false. Okay. So this is the function I have defined. Now how I'm using this filter function? Simply I'm giving this function and then I'm giving this alphabets. Okay. So this is the value I'm giving, right? So list of alphabets I can give, right? So I have to give a list of alphabets, right? I have to give assign this. So let's see if this is this list, right? This is the list, right? Okay. Now let's see what happens over here. Filtered vowel. Then we are simply checking what is there in the results. Okay. Okay, so what is the problem if alphabet and vowels? Okay, so if alpha, okay, yeah. So as you can see here, there is a space problem because these two things were not aligned, right? So that's why it was giving syntax error. Now it is fine. Okay, so if you see this filter vowel, what it has done again, it was a filter function. So similar to map function, this is a filter function. How do I go inside this? Simply I have to go within this filter vowels and print it one by one. So it has printed A, E, I, O, right? So it has ignored B, it has ignored D, it has ignored J or O, right? Because what was happening, whenever there is a vowel, then only I was returning true, otherwise it was false. So you have to make sure in your filter variable, whatever function you are using, your return should be either true or false. Then only you will come to know, right, whether I have to include it or not. Clear हुआ? Map function and filter function, are these two functions clear? Yes, we will be sharing this Jupyter notebooks, and in fact, so because I will be sharing this to Leela, and then she can spread with all of you. Okay, so I will be sharing this end of the session, so you can get it from them. Or I think it will be uploaded to your LMS only. You can access it from there. Okay, any questions in mapping filter or filter map or filter functions? Clear? Okay, cool. So similarly, you have reduce function, right? So what this reduce function do is simply like you have some numbers from function import reduce, and then you can apply this lambda, and then just implement simply on this, it will work. So you want to try it out, just see. um, Here in the code it has used these reserve word, but I never prefer it. So reduce is not defined. This reduce function is, as you can see, it is not green. So it is a part of some library. It is not available by default. And in fact, as you say, I return here is. So there is this function tool library from where you have to import reduce function. So what you can do is you have to copy paste this command over here, because there is this function tool library जहाँ से आपको reduce call करना है. Now if you see, it will work. See, it has worked. Okay, so now what it has done, I have just simply given a plus b, and then it is doing a plus b. So if you add all these numbers, you will get this. So what this reduce function does is, it is a very much short form of whatever list you give, it will perform that this operation on that. Simply like that, right? You don't want to write key one by one, it will add. So you can use this reduce function. It will simply perform this operator on your entire list. If it is multiplier, it will multiply all these numbers. You can multiply 6 into 5 into 4, 3 into 1, it will do that. So if there is certain operator you want to apply on your list, it will do the job. Okay, cool. Now what? Shallow copy versus deep copy of object. What does it mean? Assignment statements in Python do not create copies of object. Okay, then only they only bind names to an object. For immutable object, that usually does not make a difference. But for working with mutable objects or collection of mutable, you might be looking for a way to create real copies or clone of this object. So you know what is this about? कल हमने एक एग्जांपल किया था. Yesterday we did one example, if you guys remember. तो we took one list. एक लिस्ट था हमारे पास, right? 1, 2, 3, and we assigned this list into a new list as b equal to a, and then c equal to b, and this. So this is about this thing only. Like, how do you assign? So if I have used, like I was telling you, right, if it is mutable, if it is immutable, if you cannot change it, then it doesn't matter. You can assign it to anything you want, right? You won't be able to change it. But you know that when you can change it. So if you are assigning it that way, whatever operations you perform in b, like for example, if I append something in b dot append 4, and if I print a, you see, a में भी change हो गया, but आपका c में change नहीं होगा. Your c is not changed, because C I have assigned using this. I have assigned value. So that's what it is saying, that you have to be careful that how you are assigning, whether you are assigning it as a clone or as a real copies. Okay, so essentially you will sometimes want copies that you can modify without automatically modifying the original at the same time. So of course, when we are doing this assignment, we want these kind of arrangements, not this. Otherwise, what is the point of assigning to a new variable, right? You want to assign it because you don't want to change anything in the original data frame or list. Okay. So in this article, we are going to give, how to copy or clone object in Python 3. So this is specifically for Python 3, right? How we can do it. Okay. So let's start by looking at how to copy Python's built-in connection, like list, ho gaya, dictionary, sets, data frames, etc. Okay, so let's say new list hai, so this is the list dictionary. Likewise, you define. However, this method won't work for custom objects, and on top of that, it only creates a shallow copies. For compound objects like lists, dictionary, sets, there is an important difference between shallow and deep copy. Okay, so what is a shallow copy? A shallow copy means constructing a new collection object, then populating it with reference to the child object found in the original. In essence, a shallow copy is only one level deep. The copying process does not recurse, therefore won't create copies of the child object themselves. Okay, it's okay. We will learn with this example. I know this is too much information, but we'll learn it with example. Okay, and then what is deep copy? It makes the copying process recursive. It means that first constructing a new collection object and then recursing populating it with a copy of the child object found in the original. Copying an object this way walks the whole object tree to create a fully independent clone of original object. So let's see how do we make the shallow copy versus deep copy, okay? So that it's easy to understand. So what we are saying is we will create a new list, nested list. So this is the new nested list, right? Right, and then we have done the shallow copying. So shallow copy is simply list of this access. Okay, so what it means is YSU will now be a new and independent object with the same contestant as access. So first thing first. So here what happened is, what they are saying is either you give it like that or you assign it like this, list of A. I will doubt it will work. Okay, this doesn't work with our case. Okay, because uh, in our version of Python, this thing doesn't work. Okay, let me fix the, I mean, let me, so what I'll do is today I will try to find the solution that how to make this work in Python 3 also, right? Because we will be using it multiple places also. So for now, let's hold on this thing, right? I will be able to find the solution and share it with you tomorrow. For now, let's try to understand from this PPT itself, okay? So what it says is that priorly what we were giving, we were just simply doing ys equal to access. So they are saying that is not the way you should do it. If you really want to make sure that whatever changes you are going to do with ys, that does not reflect on access, you should always give it like this, that give always a list before this, right? Because it's a list, right? So you are telling that it's a new list. Okay, so this means ys will now be a new and independent object. So now it will not depend as access with the same child object. It will now be a independent object with the same contestant as access. Okay, you can verify by inspecting both the objects. So both are same. To confirm ys is really independent from original, let's devise a little experiment. You can try add a new sublist or maybe remove something to the original and check to make sure this modification did not affect the copy of ys. So whatever changes you do in access, it will not reflect to ys or vice versa. Okay, let's say we appended access new sublist and it is there in the access, but in ys there is no change. So that is what it is telling. Okay, as you can see, this had an expected effect. Modifying the copied list at a superficial level was no problem at all, right? However, because we only created a shallow copy of original list, ys still contains reference to the original child object stored in access. Okay, these children were not copied. Okay, they were merely referenced again in the copied list. Therefore, when you modify one of the child objects in NX, this modification will be reflected in YS as well. That's because both lists share the same child object. The copy is only a shallow. Let's see with the example what it is saying. So what it does it say? When you appended something in access, YS does not change. So that is good. That is what we wanted. But what it is saying is, अगर आप index level पे something you will change, it will impact your YS as well. So for example, here what we did earlier, here what we did for access का first list में, so access का first list क्या है ये, right? So if you see here, it was 4, 5, 6 earlier, but now what I did, access का first list ये है, right? Because it start with 0. So this is 0 and this is 1. So 1 का भी 0th element was 4 earlier, but now I changed it to x. So अगर मैंने access print किया, so as you can see, it has changed to access, which is good. But when I printed ys, it has changed here also. Sorry, right? ys भी change हो गया. Why? That is what it is saying. Because it's a shallow copy, superficially it has changed because it is still referring to the child object of access. Okay, so in the above example, we only made a change to access, but it turns out that both sublist at the index 1 access and ys were modified. This have has happened because we had only created a shallow copy. So this is what the shallow copy is. Okay, had we created a deep copy of access, both objects would have been fully independent. Okay, and this is a practical difference between a shallow and deep copy. Now let's see how do we create a deep copies. Okay, how can you create the copy of the arbitrary object? And the answer to this question is in the copy module of Python standard library, right? So there is a copy module where we simply do the copy, that's all. So there is this copy library, import copy. Okay, and this is the new file. How do you do the copy? You simply do copy message deep copy of access, that's all. So the in a nutshell, if I have to summarize, all I'm trying to say, even if you are doing it this way or directly assignment, actually the purpose of copy is not solved. Okay, if you really want to make sure that whatever you are copying, it is completely independent of the previous ones, all you have to do is just import copy. Okay, and sorry, copy, and then you do b equal to a, sorry, from copy dot, there is something called deep copy. If you put a tab, you will get a suggestion, deep copy of a, that's all. Okay, so once you have printed it, now if I append something in b, it will not impact your a. Yeah, this is independent or vice versa, right? Even let's try to change even the child argument also, right? So this is my b. Now let's say if b ka 0 I will replace with 7, and if I print b, this has changed, right? But if I check a, see, it has not changed. A still remain 1 2 3. So the bottom line is, whenever you want to copy, just use this function, that's all. It's okay if you are not able to understand what is shallow copy, what is decopy. The ultimate bottom line is, if you really want to copy two variables, like one variable into another variable, and you want to make sure whatever operations you perform, it is not impacted on the original one, you always copy like this, that's all. No matter whatever it is, if it is a list, data frame, tuple, whatever it is, you always copy it like this. Clear? Any question in this? Shallow copy, deep copy, what is the problem, how to resolve it? Okay, I hope this is clear. Perfect. Okay. Again, same thing. You do whatever you want to do. It is not reflected over here, right? Okay, cool. Example, like quiz, sorry. Quick quiz, and then we are done for the day. Okay. So, okay. So I think this is, there is some homework also in this. So you have to write a program to check if a list is empty. So I would encourage you guys, please do this, try this out at your home. Let's say if you are not able to write it at your own, simply you just copy and paste it. And the reason why I'm saying it is not cheating, right? It is open source thing. So there is no, you don't call it cheating. And let me tell you a very interesting fact, if you don't aware about it, we take a lot of interview, right, for this profile. So it is a open, have you heard about open book exam? Where book opening a book is allowed. So this is always a, most of the time it is an open book exam. You are allowed to check on internet whatever it is there, you, because nobody expect you to remember the syntax. And I'm not lying, you can check it with anybody, any of the reputed firms you see, they always allow you open book exam of Python or coding or whatever. You are allowed to copy paste and look through the internet and find out the solution appropriately. तो अगर आपको नहीं आ रहा है सॉल्व करना, all you do is just copy paste, because I want you to make sure, क्योंकि see art is not कि मैं आपको syntax नहीं सिखाना चाहती हूँ. My job is not to teach you syntax or not to memorize your syntax. My job is, you are comfortable enough. Yesterday also I told you, I want to make sure you are confident enough कि yes, I can code this in Python no matter what. मैं खुद से, like whether you are able to write the code at your own completely, or you are looking, searching, and then doing copy pasting. I don't care. For me, ultimately, the job should be done. If you copy paste or if you do this, it should be done and it should be fast. अगर आप खुद से लिख के सर्च करके and then you are putting it 1 hour, or let's say if you are able to find and understanding is important. I don't want you to just copy paste. I want you to understand also, read through it also, so that next time you can remember and you can try writing at your own. Okay. I mean, because what will happen, why I am asking you to write at your own after looking at it, because it will be easy for you next time when you are reading from somewhere, right? Some code, it will be, you will see by yourself, because you know how to write it, you will read it fast. Because imagine if you are going through it, right? There are 100 line of codes. How do you know which one to pick? You should be able to understand that code pretty fast, right? So if you know how to write, then only you will be able to read it fast. Okay. So you can simply check examples they rakhe. There are many examples. So I have already given you solution. So your job is, please run these through, understand why it is doing and what it is doing. Okay, fine. Then consider this as a tuple. Write a program that create a list of all fish except octopus. Again, this is doable. You have to create a tuple of this, and then you have to create a list in which this is not there. So you have to subtract this from tuple. That's all. Read an alphabet, check it is a vowel or consonant. You already have it. It's just that you have to modify accordingly because you want to print a consonant also. Earlier it was just a vowel. Okay, write a program to construct following pattern. Again, you can try it out. It is easy. If not, you can easily find in web also, I'm pretty sure. Okay, the whole point is, I am fine if you are searching it from web, but you should be able to understand that code. And if somebody asks you explain this, you should be able to explain that code pretty nicely. Okay. Again, what does the following line code do? You should be able to understand, right? So, abhi, like you're not, guys are not able to speak. Otherwise, I would have asked. So you should. So that's what I'm saying. By reading at this, by now you should know what does it do. So you should be able to tell me that, ma'am, this will create a dictionary where A is map. A is a key pair. A B C D is a key pair, and 1 2 3 4 5 are subsequent value. A का value 1 है, B का value 2 है, C का value 3 है, like that. Range of 10. It is just assigning a range. That's all. Sorting, it will sort if it is there in the A, like that, right? So all these functions, you you should be aware what does this line of code do. If you are not sure, then again do how we do it over here, right? You copy paste this in Python and see what it is doing, then try to understand what exactly it did, right? You simply copy paste this, you copy paste in Python and see what it did. Now you type A1, what it is. You see it is range 0 to 10. Now you know what it did, right? Now you in fact go step further. You try to print all the elements between 0 to 10. I have already told you how to do it. Okay, cool. Which are the advantages of the function? Reducing and duplicate the code, decomposing complex problem into simple pieces, improving the clarity of the code, all of the above. All of the are why we use functions. Okay. Fine. What is the output of the below program? You want to try it out? So we have x equal to 50. Now we have defined a function. Okay. So we have defined a global x. Okay. And then print x is x. Then I'm assigning x equal to 2. Then print changed global x to this function. And when I'm doing print value of x is x. So what you will get? Let's try it out. Okay. If I run this, so what it did, first of all, it printed what is x. So x is 50, it will printed. Then x equal to 2 change hua, then it printed changed global x to 2. Then that's all. Function was end. Then again, finally, print x is 2. Okay, fine. Now what if I have commented this? Let's see how it has changed. Let me run it in some other tab. Okay. Okay. Okay, X is referenced before the assignment. Okay, so let me comment this also. Okay, so you know what happened over here? First of all, why I was getting here error here is because I was running this command and within this function, it doesn't know what is X. Okay, so that's why it was saying that X has referent before the assignment. Okay, so that was one thing. Just a minute. Let me... Right. So, yeah. So now what happened is when I have mentioned that here earlier that global X, right? So I said X is global. Okay, within this, so what it did, whatever value now I have given, that has made it to global. So let's say if I do this and then again I check the value of X over here, it will change to 2, because within this I defined global and then I changed the value to 2. So now it will remember that 2 is the global value. But here, as I have not defined anything globally, so whatever I will change, this will be again, as we saw, right, remembering within the function, and afterwards again it will be 50. So that's what it was happening over here, right? So as you can see, we changed inside, so that's why X equal to 2, it was inside, but then again when I print outside, it is 50. So that's the only difference. So here we defined globally, so that's why you were able to change the 2 value global level. Otherwise it will remain same. Again, it is kind of a useless thing. Mostly we do not use it. It is just there. That's why I was telling you. Okay, cool. Similarly, you can try it out. You have defined a variable named say, and then message times this print message this times. Then you are simply passing the message, right? So hello you are passing, and then how many times? 1. So hello is 1 time and then word is 5 time. So what is your answer? A. Correct? This one, because word will be typed 5 times. Okay. Then where can a function be defined? Module, class, another function, all of the above. We will learn what is class and then all, but it is a modular thing. It can be assigned anywhere. Okay. Um, okay. Cool. I think this is the last slide. Yes, we are on time. Perfect. So we will be sharing the material to you. I mean, I will be sharing with the team and they will upload it there. So any questions in today's session, we can clarify, else we can wrap up. No questions? Okay, perfect then. Then thank you so much, everyone. And yes, everything it is will be uploaded in LMS. So please reach out to the ExcelR team if you are not able to find it there. But just wait for today. You should be able to, see it in there. There. Okay. Okay. Uh, then yeah, thank you so much. Uh, right. So yeah, I mean, let's meet tomorrow. Fine. Okay, have a good day ahead, everyone. Bye.